The fact that more Americans don't know who this man is a crime. This is Paul Robeson,
who was considered one of the most famous black men in the world. An athlete, a lawyer, a movie star, a Broadway legend, a voice so powerful it crossed oceans and languages. But by the
You may not have known this, but this man had his passport revoked for standing up for civil rights. This is
much older than I, and I'm a Negro, and they don't want a Negro on the team. And so one day I'm out on the field, and before you know it, one fella hits me in the nose, and my nose is bleeding and bloody. And another fella breaks my shoulder. And then I was on the ground, and a fella steps on me like that.
They loved his voice when he sang for their entertainment. They loved his face when it made them money. But the second he opened his mouth to speak about black freedom, they crushed him like he was never human at all.
Robeson never got a chance to play anybody close to what he was, which was a lawyer, a great athlete, a great speaker, a magnificent voice, the voice of the century.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
Look at you.
Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me always. Money coming in all day. Money coming in all pay. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly.
There was once a man who was considered one of the most famous black men in the world. An athlete, a lawyer, a movie star, a Broadway legend, a voice so powerful it crossed oceans and languages. But by the 1950s, his name disappeared. Records vanished from stores, concerts were canceled, doors closed, and a man who once filled stadiums was suddenly treated as if he never existed. This is the story of Paul Robeson, the artist who became a political problem. And the question history still asks, was he simply ahead of his time, or was he silenced for what he believed? Paul Leroy Robeson was born on April 9, 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey. His father had been born into slavery and escaped as a teenager, eventually becoming a minister. His mother came from a prominent black Quaker family. From the beginning, Robeson's life existed between two worlds, oppression and excellence. When Paul was 6 years old, tragedy struck. His mother died in a house fire. His family struggled financially, but education and discipline became the foundation of his life. At Rutgers University, Robeson became only the third black student ever enrolled. He faced brutal racism. Teammates deliberately injured him during football practice to force him off the team. He refused to quit. He became an all-American athlete, a scholar, a debater, and a singer. Even then, something was clear. Paul Robeson was not meant to live quietly.
You may not have known this, but this man had his passport revoked for standing up for civil rights. This is Paul Robeson. Born in 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey, he won an academic scholarship to attend Rutgers University. He was the only black student there. Regardless of that, he made Phi Beta Kappa. He was also class valedictorian, and he was twice named All-American Football Player in 1917 and 1918. While playing football, he went and earned a law degree, not from any school, from Columbia University, one of the best law schools in the world. And you would think that that would essentially be enough, but not for Paul Robeson.
After studying law at Columbia University, Robeson briefly practiced law, but racism followed him there too. One incident changed everything. A white secretary refused to take dictation from a black lawyer. Robeson walked away from law and turned fully toward performance, and history changed. By the 1930s, Paul Robeson became an international sensation. He starred in theater productions and films, including The Emperor Jones, one of the first American films to feature a black actor in a leading role. His deep bass voice made him famous worldwide. He recorded hundreds of songs and helped bring Negro spirituals into the global mainstream. In London, he starred as Othello, a performance that would become one of the longest-running Shakespeare productions in Broadway history. At one point, magazines called him America's #1 entertainer. But fame did something unexpected. It changed his politics. Traveling abroad, Robeson saw societies where he felt less racial hostility than in America. He began to speak openly about colonialism, racism, and global injustice, and that made powerful people uncomfortable.
They loved his voice when he sang for their entertainment. They loved his face when it made them money. But the second he opened his mouth to speak about Black freedom, they crushed him like he was never human at all.
In 1934, he went to London and studied Swahili, embracing African history and culture, and becoming fluent in multiple African languages. Then when he came back, he started the American Crusade against lynching, and he met with the president, Harry Truman, to discuss anti-lynching legislation in America. This was well before the NAACP even started to endorse Paul Robeson. Because he defended the Soviet Union's minority policy and the way the Soviet Union treated black people, he was labeled as un-American. His passport was revoked, and his income was collapsed. His tour dates, his concert dates were all canceled. Congress even called him to testify to explain himself why he was siding with things regarding the Soviet Union and also his anti-colonial stance. He testified in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee. In 1956, the entire time he invoked the Fifth Amendment. His direct quote was, "Whether I am or not a communist is irrelevant. The question is whether American citizens may enjoy their constitutional rights." In 1958, he published his autobiography, Here I Stand. It was boycotted by almost every major commercial publication. It was only available through black press and abroad. Eventually, he took his passport revocation all the way up to the Supreme Court in Kent versus Dulles in 1958. His passport was eventually restored. He began touring again. Now, Paul...
Greatest football player in America. That's what I knew about him as a kid.
So I come to the school and some of the other players are much older than I. And I'm a Negro, and they don't want a Negro on the team. And so one day I'm out on the field, and before you know it, one fella hits me in the nose, and my nose is bleeding and bloody. Another fella breaks my shoulder, and then I was on the ground, and a fella steps on me like that, and I'm completely bloody.
His father's the one who told him to go back, and so he went back out after he kind of got himself together. Remember, he went to Rutgers. He was the only black person on campus. His father told him that if you quit, there are hundreds of Negro boys who will not get the opportunity to play. And the next practice, same thing.
And I was on the ground, and the man steps on my fingers and takes my nails off of my hand, and they're bleeding. And I become absolutely out of my mind. Sumashitsi. And the man comes by, and I'm about to tackle him, and I take him, and I'm gonna, as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna...
And the coach blew the whistle and said, "Okay, Rose, you made the team."
They knew forever. But if they ever touched me, ever touched this Negro, that would be their lives. No more trouble from then on. I made the team.
They said of him that he was one of the smartest football players who ever played. In a sense, football was a metaphor for the way he dealt with conflict. Obviously, playing in his time, a black football player, you had to be impeccable. He never got penalized. You can't be rash. You have to be smart. You can't let anger or fear take over.
He earns 14 varsity letters and an All-American citation for football. Paul performs brilliantly on and off the athletic fields. His father's expectations are realized when, in his junior year, Paul is inducted into Phi Beta Kappa.
He was teaching me to be an orator. He died in 1918 in university at Rutgers, where I went, University of New Jersey and Rutgers. The proudest moments of his life were when I won many of the oratorical contests. They have one every year, but I had the honor of winning it for 4 years straight. And my third year, which was the most important, he was lying in state in Somerville, 15 miles away. And before he died, he told me that he wanted me to take part in the competition. I won it.
Moving to New York to attend Columbia University Law School, Paul immediately heads for Harlem, now the center of a renowned cultural renaissance.
By the time he arrived in Harlem, he was a hero. He was known for this extraordinary record that he had compiled at Rutgers. Twice an All-American football player, a dozen varsity letters, also a distinguished scholar at Rutgers. He already stood out, so his arrival at Harlem was instantly noted.
Fact is, the employer did even suggest that he might open up a branch in Harlem and put Paul in charge of it.
But he told Paul that none of the firm's white clients would really allow him to represent them in court. And he wasn't interested in joining a profession in which he couldn't reach the highest rungs.
Made me more conscious politically.
Robeson never got a chance to play anybody close to what he was, which was a lawyer, a great athlete, a great speaker, a magnificent voice, the voice of the century.
In later years, Robeson withdrew from public life. He died in 1976. But history slowly began to correct itself. Awards returned, honors followed. He received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. His name entered halls of fame. His performances were re-examined as groundbreaking cultural moments. Today, historians recognize him as one of the most complex figures of the 20th century, an artist who refused to separate art from justice. Some see him as a victim of political persecution. Others see him as a controversial figure caught in Cold War politics. But almost everyone agrees on one thing: Paul Robeson changed culture forever. How beautiful you are. You'll basically seal your beauty, like your glam, after you've done your makeup, or even stand in front of the mirror naked with nothing on, so you can really reaffirm yourself of your beauty, of your confidence, and all that. This book is mainly for like self-confidence and self-elevation, you know, calling the goddess in you, calling the divinity in you, you know, calling the beauty in you, and also work with the moon, because the moon represents the woman, the mother, water, all of this. So yeah, I have all the steps in here of all the spells that you need to. It has one for to get rid of unwanted guests. It's pretty funny. To get rid of unwanted guests. And this book right here, right? So I'm gonna run down real quick about the materials that you're going to need.
need a brand new broom. It has to be brand new. And you'll need a piece of parchment paper, a black pen, a black trash bag, because we're going to get rid of this sucker, right? And of course your intentions. And also I have spells on here that you can say. I have daily affirmations. And also I have spells on here that you can do every single day to work with the energy of the planets of the day, and also the archangels that work with the day. So anyways, there's so many spells. There's a 7-day manifestation spell, which